Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Urbana City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council members Brown.
Here.
Hazen.
Here.
Hersey.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Wu.
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here. Next up is approval of minutes from the June 3rd, 2019 meeting.
I'll make a motion for that.
I'll second that motion.
Are there any additions or corrections to the, or any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none.
Good.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Any additions to the agenda? I do have one request. I would request the council to move the staff appointments up under unfinished business. We have some guests in the audience that
I'll
are
make that
here.
motion.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Dean. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we'll do that then. Public input? I don't have any cards from the,
I'm finishing the card, so
Okay.
maybe I have two cards, so maybe I'll do it at the time.
okay.
It is the time.
Both of them at the time of the item on the agenda? Okay. Is there any unfinished business? Okay. We're going to be doing mayoral appointments, and I'm going to divide these into three different sections. The first, and this is item I on the agenda, which has been moved up. The first will be appointments to boards and commissions, and these are new members, all for terms ending June 30th, 2022. To the Civilian Police Review Board, Darius White. He's a resident of Urbana. He works as a program coordinator for the Champaign Park District at the Douglas Annex. He's very interested in advancing collaborations toward positive outcomes and changes in the community. He also has volunteered to serve on the Community Development Commission for a term ending June 30th, 2022. For the Sustainability Advisory Commission, Thomas Delgado is one appointee. He's an office administrator at the Cunningham Township Supervisor Office and a strong interest in sustainability issues at the local level. And then the second nominee would be Megan McGinty. She's a special education teacher at Leal Elementary School, a lifelong resident of Urbana, and also represents her neighborhood on the Neighborhood Safety Task Force. So I'd entertain a motion to approve these new appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jared, seconded by Eric. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Next up are reappointments to boards and commissions. These are all for terms ending June 30th, 2022. For the Community Development Board, Chris Diana. For the Design Review Board, Nancy Way Drago and Adam Rush. For Market at the Square Advisory Board, Gary Taylor, and for Urbana Public Television Commission, Chris Fuller. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll? I'm sorry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion passes. Next up are staff appointments, and before I go through that list, I would like to request that Interim Chief Bryant Serafin and Interim Deputy Chief Bob Fitzgerald please come join us up front. So included with these staff appointments, I'm also appointing and ask for your support for the appointment of Bryant Serafin to Police Chief and Robert Fitzgerald to Deputy Police Chief. Combined, they have over 40 years of law enforcement experience in Urbana. They've cultivated positive and effective working relationships within the Urbana Police Department as well as throughout the organization. Before I go into a little more detail, I wanted to recognize their guests in the audience, and that's their families who've come here to share this occasion with them tonight. Chief Seraphin's family, his wife Tammy, and his sons Nicholas and Jacob. We now stand up so we can see who you are here tonight. Welcome. And Deputy Chief Fitzgerald's wife Shelley and his children Ryan and Maddie are here tonight. Welcome. Now, just a note to the families of these nominees. I think the families of police officers share the job and all that comes with it. Each and every day, you send your loved ones to serve and protect our community. So on behalf of the City of Urbana, I wanted to thank you for your support over the years, for your sacrifice. I know there were missed holidays, missed birthdays, missed special occasions. I know they made it up to you, but there were times when they weren't there for you because they were there for us. And I want to thank you for your sacrifice and support and the pride that you share with them in service to our community. Thank you. Okay, a little bit more information about nominee for police chief. Bryant Seraphin joined the Urbana Police Force in 1994. He's coming on 25 years of service to the community, earned a bachelor's degree with distinction in sociology, specialization in criminology from the University of Illinois, served as a field training officer, member of the Metro SWAT team, served in the Criminal Investigations Division since 1999, promoted to sergeant in 2002, appointed lieutenant of the Criminal Investigations Division in 2007. 2015, he moved to the Patrol Division, assumed the role of deputy chief in 2017. And over the past 10 months, I've observed both Mr. Seraphin and Mr. Fitzgerald. Really, they've had a 10-month job interview when it comes right down to it. I've observed Bryant Seraphin in many different situations, both public and private, some in some very potentially tense meetings, which he handled with calmness and respect and professionalism. He prepared budget for this year, for the police department this year. He implemented the use of body cameras in the past year. He has spent countless hours working with the former school superintendent, the interim school superintendent, the incoming school superintendent, staff, and community members, all related to safety issues in the Urbana Middle School and High School. And that has been an unexpected challenge, but he's handled extremely well. He's committed to community policing, and I appreciate the work he put in along with council members on modifying our reporting methods on pedestrian stops to more closely align with what we believe was the legislators' intent. So he's had a wide variety of challenges this year, and I'm confident in his ability to handle just about anything that comes his way. Robert Fitzgerald joined the Urbana Police Department in 1998. Prior to that, he served 11 years in the city of Chicago, where he was a patrol officer, and tactical officer, and gang tactical officer with the Chicago Police Department. He received many awards and honors over the years. He was named Urbana Departmental Officer of the Year in 2005, promoted to sergeant in 2006, appointed to lieutenant in 2010, and he's been responsible for the daily operations of the police department as interim chief. And on a personal note, I first met Bob Fitzgerald as a community member when we were forming the Southeast Urbana Neighborhood Association, and he was in charge of the patrol in South Urbana. He worked closely with residents. He supported the formation of Neighborhood Watch. He went door to door to the businesses in Southeast Urbana. He organized quarterly meetings with the businesses and the community in that area. He really defined what community policing should be in terms of his outreach and work with the community. And I know he's strongly supported, particularly in my former ward, because he works so closely with the folks in that area. So I appreciate everything that you've done for our community over the year. So It's my pleasure to nominate, again, Bryant Seraphin for Chief of Police and Robert Fitzgerald for Deputy Police Chief. And I will read the other nominees for staff appointments. Actually, I should ask if would you like to say a few words first?
I would.
Okay.
I have a few. I have just a few. It's pretty good. It was interesting because as I was contemplating some of these things and preparing, updating resumes and chatting with folks about this, I realized that in 1994, when I tested here, would have been in the spring, and like most U of I students, I graduated in May, and then I got a job that was totally 180 from doing police work or what my major was. I was roofing houses. And when Urbana called that fall and said, hey, would you like a job? I was like, absolutely. This is really hard work, this roofing stuff is. And I've been able to, I was hired by interim Chief Charlie Gordon. I worked for Chief Eddie Adair, Chief Mike Bealey, Chief Pat Connolly, Chief Sylvia Morgan, and I was able to hopefully gather some styles and pros and cons from all of them about how to do this job, and I'm hoping that I can continue to carry that forward. You know, the most formative experience I had as a supervisor was being a field training officer. And as I look back on that time, I realized if you can't supervise one person, you can't supervise a team or a shift or a whole department. And hopefully those skills, that teacher, that coaching, that evaluation, I've been able to carry through, and I will continue to do so. As an investigator, I got a chance to really expand and deal with not just the officers, but the whole justice system. And I think that's really important and critical to make those connections and to develop those relationships, and not just within those in the justice system, but those citizens and those citizens groups, and especially over the last couple of years as I've changed roles from working cases to actually supervising and managing at a different level. I will say that I'm glad that I've been able to keep the relationships with the officers and the detectives, and I hope that's something that I can do is remain open and available to them. Those men and women who work with the citizens and who work every day out there driving those blue cars to calls for service. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the mayor and the staff who have trusted me so far, and I guess I could take any questions or anything, or if Bob, if you would like to say a word or two.
I just want to say I really appreciate this honor. I think it's a great honor, and I really enjoyed, especially as a lieutenant, getting to know the people in Urbana, going door to door, like the mayor said, and meeting with people and having neighborhood meetings and business meetings and getting out and hearing people's concerns. I'll say one thing. After 11 years with the city of Chicago, I came to see Urbana. And Bryant Seraphin was my field training officer, and he taught me everything I know. So, still learning, even after 30 years, I'm still learning new things every day. And I think this is a great honor, a great privilege to serve the city of Urbana and to have this honor of being the deputy chief of the police department.
Mike Bealey said, hey, this next recruit I have for you, it's Bob Fitzgerald. He's done 11 years in Chicago. And I thought, holy cow, what am I supposed to teach this guy? And he said, just teach him how to fill out the forms and stuff. I said, okay.
Any council comments or questions? Eric?
So being an academic, I research everything. And one of the things that I've discovered, there's really solid evidence, and you know it probably, but the public may not know, is that police officers have shorter life expectancies than other people. Not primarily for the obvious reasons of, getting shot or run over or something, but mostly because of stress and stress-related disease. So I just wish you guys as stress-free an environment and as long a life, and I just want to express my gratitude, and I wanted to, cite that fact because I think a lot of people don't realize the extent of what you not only contribute to us, but in a certain sense, sacrifice for us.
Thank you.
Dennis?
Well, I think it's great to see you guys rise through the ranks to the positions you're going to be holding now. I really appreciate that. Certainly, we've seen you in the neighborhood down there at the Learman Garden. You've made an appearance and at the Victory Park events that we've had. We've always had either a police car or a fire truck or something at the park for the picnics, annual picnics. Appreciate that. And I don't know if we got a chance to ask Robert if he's got family in the audience.
Oh, yeah, my wife and 2 children are.
All right, maybe they need to be
Ryan and
recognized.
Maddie.
All right, thank you.
We did introduce them.
All right.
Any other questions?
I just want to comment.
Comment? Yes. Sharice?
Well, Bryant and Robert. No, I just want to say, ever since I came on the council, both of you have been nothing but, have not shown me anything but, you know, how generous you are with information. And when I have questions, you answer them. And I was teasing Brian earlier about the little swag bag I got for my graduation from the Citizens Police Training Institute. And Mr. Fitzgerald was there, and it was really very nice. And so I just want to thank you, and I'm really happy to see this promotion for you. So,
Any other comments? Okay. I should mention there's another member of the UPD family in the audience, and that's Cassie Heldman. She's the administrative assistant and executive assistant, and actually the person in charge in that part of the
Correct.
So nothing gets done without Kathy's help and or Cassie's help and support, and we deeply appreciate that. And she keeps a bowl of candy on her desk at all times. So. But thank you, Cassie, for everything you've done for over the years. Okay, the rest of the staff appointments that are before you tonight. In the Executive Department, Carol Mitten, City Administrator, Todd Rent, Human Resources Director, Vasilia Clark, Human Relations Officer, Stanford Hess, Information Technology Manager, James Simon, City Attorney. Community Development Services Department, John Schneider, Community Development Services Director, Lori Pearson, Deputy Community Development Services Director, Planning Manager. This change in title reflects her actual job duties. It does not, there's no change in pay. But Lori also serves as the director, or acting director in John's absence, so she really has a leadership role in the department. Sheila Dodd, Grants Manager, Brandon Boyes, Economic Development Manager. Finance Department, Elizabeth Hannon, Finance Director, Elizabeth Beatty, Administrative Services Manager, Christine Francisco, Financial Services Manager. In the Fire Department, Charles Luss, Fire Chief, Chad Hench, Division Chief, Kyle Hench, Division Chief, Derek Odell, Division Chief, and Philip Edwards, Fire Marshal. Police Department, Bryant Seraphin, Police Chief, Robert Fitzgerald, Deputy Police Chief. Police Lieutenants include Jason Norton, Joel Sanders, Richard Searles, and Matthew Bain. And in the Public Works Department, the Public Works Director search is in progress. Deputy Public Works Director for Operations, Vince Gustafson. Interim co-city engineers will be Brad Bennett and Craig Schunkweiler, and Scott Tess is Sustainability and Resilience Officer. And those positions were discussed a week or two ago in the when the reorganization of the Public Works Department was discussed. So I would entertain a motion for these staff appointments.
I will make the motion.
second.
Moved by Dean,
Second.
seconded by Sharice. Any council discussion, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Congratulations, and thank you to all staff, and I look forward to a good year. Okay, we'll return to our regular agenda, and that will be reports of the Standing Committee. And we have a consent agenda. Dean Hazen?
Okay, I will attempt to follow this. The Committee of the Whole recommended that the City Council take a single vote to consider approval of the following items appearing on the consent agenda. And it's going to be resolution number 2019-06-017R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a promotional and marketing agreement, Champaign County Economic Development Corporation, fiscal year 2019-2020. That's from Community Development. Resolution number 2019-06-018R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a promotional and marketing agreement, Urbana Business Association, again, Community Development. Resolution number 2019-06-019R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a promotional and marketing agreement, Visit Champaign County, again, Community Development. Resolution number 2019-06-020R, a resolution authorizing acceptance of a grant for Market at the Square, Farm Credit Illinois Grant, SNAP Double Value Program 2019. That was, again, Community Development. And finally, resolution number 2019-06-021R, a resolution authorizing acceptance of a grant for Market at the Square, Link Up Illinois Grant, SNAP Double Value Program 2019, and that was also Community Development. Does anyone request moving any of these items to the regular agenda? Okay.
Well, we have no public input cards related to these items.
All right, I move that the previous the five previously stated items appear in the consent agenda for approval, and we will need a council member to second that.
Second.
Moved by Dean, seconded by Bill. So there's a motion to consider the consent agenda. It was made by Committee Chair Hazen, seconded by Bill Brown. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay.
Okay. For the committee, I move passage of the 5 previously stated items appearing on the consent agenda.
Is there a
I'll second.
Moved by Dean, seconded by Bill. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmembers Brown.
Yes.
Hazen.
Yes.
Hersey.
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Wu.
Yes.
Mayor Marlin.
Yes. Interestingly, the mayor votes on consent agenda items when I wouldn't vote on them if they were considered separately. So. Okay. Other items from Committee of the Whole?
For Committee of the Whole, I will move ordinance number 2019-06-033, an ordinance amending the Urbana City Code, Chapter 22, recycling tax from finance with recommendation for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Dean, seconded by Eric. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
Brown. Hazen.
Yes.
Hersey.
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
And Wu.
Yes.
That motion passes. Next item.
Oh, sorry. Resolution number 2019-06022R, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with the Urbana and Champaign Sanitary District for billing services finance. I do move with recommendation for approval from the Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Moved by Dean, seconded by Mary Alice. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmembers Brown.
Yes.
Hazen.
Yes.
Hersey.
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
And Wu.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, next up, ordinance number 2019-06-034, an ordinance approving the fiscal year 2019-2020 annual budget from finance. The Committee of the Whole does move to City Council with recommendation for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Dean, seconded by Jared. I have 2 items of public input. from Bishop King James and Reverend Dr. Evelyn B. Underwood. They choose not to address members, but ask that they're submitting a statement of support that Eldris Melinda Carr will make on behalf of the Dr. Ellis Subdivision Sewer concerning a request relating to the 2019-20 budget. And then, did you wish to address the council, Dr. Underwood?
We're going to support the statement that Eldris Melinda Carr is making on behalf of the Dr. Ellis Subdivision Committee.
Okay, so Eldris Carr, would you like to speak to the council? Yes. And this is ordinances approving the fiscal year 2020 annual budget, amending the annual budget, and resolutions approving the capital improvement plan. And you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Marlin and the Urbana City Council. This is regarding the ordinance approving the FY 2020 annual budget and amending the FY 2019 annual budget. This was presented at the June 10, 2019 Committee of the Whole meeting, and specifically under Section 1, an ordinance adopting the FY 2020 annual budget, and bulleted item number 6, referencing Dr. Ellis Subdivision. Our critical sewer issues in Dr. Ellis Subdivision have been before you a number of years, including a past petition with more than 100 signatures presented on November 13, 2017. Therefore, we respectfully ask the Urbana City Council to consider using the Community Development Block Grant Fund to support sewer system infrastructure improvements. Because the Dr. Ellis Subdivision is in a targeted area, it seems inappropriate to allocate funds, of which $105,000 is stated as a portion of the budget for streets and sidewalks infrastructure improvements first, when sewer infrastructure issues have escalated in our neighborhood in recent months. We are continually concerned about the deficiencies and inequities in the sewer system in the Dr. Ellis Subdivision. We appreciate your consideration of allocation of funds toward critical sewer issues in Dr. Ellis Subdivision. Respectfully submitted, Dr. Ellis Subdivision Committee.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question real quick?
One question, yeah.
Yeah, Melinda, just one question. Because it's the Dr. Ellis Committee. What is it? I'm sorry.
Dr. Ellis Subdivision
Subdivision.
Committee.
Huh?
Committee.
Okay, that's what I was asking. I just wanted to know because I talked to Reverend Doctor earlier this morning, well, today. When does that committee meet so that I can pass information sometime? Because I'm pretty sure that this is something that, if anything, it would have to be discussed and figured out. So when can I come to pass information or get information or something?
We'll reconnect with you as our council person.
Yeah, but I would like to be at a meeting, that's all I'm saying.
Right, and we'll reconnect with you because you've gotten an email on the people who are on the email list, if you remember. So we'll reconnect with you as we begin to start up, since you've become our alderperson.
I know, but I haven't gotten any email. That's, I don't, what email?
Well, we'll reconnect with you, as I said, as our alderperson.
Okay.
And we're connecting with people in the community since you've become alderperson, have you reconnected with people in the community in our area?
No, I haven't been able to, but I
So,
just wanted to know
that's
when
what
I
I'm saying.
could. That's why I was asking, when the committee
So we're
meets,
going
so that I
to
could come.
reconnect as we establish, because I was the coordinator for our area.
Okay.
And when I don't want to get into the details, so that's what I can tell you. If you want me to go into more detail, I can.
Okay,
Sounds like you'll be attending a meeting.
I guess
Okay.
when I find out when they are. Okay.
Okay.
And I just wanted to know, so that I could, at the very least, when this comes up, I could at least come by and I can give information. I need to know, but I needed to know. That's all. I'm just,
We're reconnecting, reestablishing, so I don't know if that makes sense to you.
okay. Okay,
Connecting as the Dr. Ellis Committee.
okay.
Thank you.
And I've got a question.
Yes.
Yeah, and Melinda, so do you have in mind right now a very specific project that you want to see done? Like, are you thinking specifically of a certain section of sewer line that you want to advocate to be reconnected or to be relined or something specifically in this proposal?
We can provide that if the council would consider. So that's the question. If you consider it, we have some things that have been brought before the council in the past several years.
Yeah, but they've been
So-
kind of general, they've been sort of generic about the whole subdivision with nothing, I think, that's very specific, and I think we probably want to know some very specific facts about maybe the sewer lines at certain homes or on, because I know that in that neighborhood, there's been some work. Okay.
Yeah.
So, right, I'm just saying that CDBG grant money is appropriate, but yeah, you'd want to have,
Well, at this point, the CDBG money is being recommended for street and sidewalk improvements there,
Those
which is
are
needed as well.
recommendations, but they don't necessarily have to be set in stone.
Well, something to be worked out. Okay, thank you. I also have a card from Etha Reed, who is in support of the statement by the Dr. Ellis Subdivision Committee regarding the fiscal 2020 annual budget. And last public input card is from Reverend Dr. Evelyn Underwood and Bishop King James Underwood regarding the Sister Cities program. I'm having difficulty reading, but
Yeah, because I wanted to do mine at a different, when Chairman Roberts finished his, but I felt that I wanted to say one or two things because I have a different perspective to undergird what my chairman has to say. Thank you.
okay. Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, I believe we talked when we were talking about the plan of infrastructure, that we were talking about having a sewer assessment plan that's been funded. Carol? Is that correct?
I was conferring with the city attorney. Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, no problem. So right now in the facilities plan, we said that we were going to do a sewer assessment plan that's going to be undertaken this fiscal year. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's actually started, but it's not going to examine every pipe.
It's a
that's in the
stormwater
system.
master plan.
Oh, thank you. It's a stormwater, so it's not sewer.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion items on the budget? Dennis?
Right. So I just wanted to present an amendment to the budget. It's a small amendment, but I'd like to present it. Currently, right now, the Sister City program had been funded for several years with a generous amount of money provided by the executive department, which started under Mayor Pressing, of $5,000 a year. And many times we've used the money in ways that I've mentioned in the handout that I passed out to you. We've supported sometimes housing and feeding delegations who've come from both Thionville and from Zumba Malawi, who've come in the past to our community as partly part of grant work and partly to tour the community after they were invited by Sister Cities International to come to Washington, D.C. And we've also had programs that we've had ongoing, starting with a couple of grants that we've received from Sister Cities International in the past, working in Malawi. So we have had many projects that have outreach to the community. Mostly we're providing services to the community. We've done educational programs in the schools. We've had events at the public library. And we've hosted 5 different Sister Cities Malawi mixers, which we invite the community to interact with us in a sort of like a celebratory manner. We've provided food and beverages and have had entertainment. And these events have mostly been connected with the arrival of delegates in the community. We've also been invited to the President's House at the U of I 3 different times to host these kinds of delegations. And we know that in 2020, we're going to be having a delegation from Malawi come again, 2 gentlemen who are actually working with the project with the University of Illinois, will be in town. And I feel that we would like to maintain the level of friendship and cooperation and hospitality that we've had in the past. The current budget will be ending this June, and the next projection budgets don't actually have specific funding for Sister Cities programs. Instead, we've been offered to have a certain amount of money given to us if we can match it, and the matching amount is $2,500. So I'm just going to say that at all the projects that we've done, probably over the years we've been able to raise like about $200, $300 at most. And raising money was not really the focus or the attention of the Sister Cities program in the past. So what I would like the City Council to do is just to acknowledge that the Sister Cities program is valuable to the community and to the city itself as a promotional tool that has raised awareness of the interglobal consciousness of this community, the interglobal connections in the community. And to that end, actually, I've been working on a presentation, which is a book celebrating the first 10 years of the Sister City projects that we've had here in the community. And this book I'll be presenting to the library and to the archives and giving as gifts to our Sister City friends in Europe when we go over there in November, and also when I travel to Malawi in August to reconnect with our Sister City friends and partners there. And this book is filled with all of the events that we've done in the past, the projects that we've completed, which many of them are on-the-ground physical projects that we've completed, and include not only our African Sister City, but also our visits to China. The mayor was with us on that trip, where we had to convince the Chinese government to allow us to use connections at the University of Sun Yat-sen in Haizhu district to participate in one of our grant projects. And I want to say that we got 2 different grants amounting to $215,000 from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to do work in Malawi. And we also have here in this booklet, it covers the awards that we received at Sister Cities International, and our Sister City program in France is highlighted. And at the end, there's a page about the awards that we've received as a program in this for the city of Urbana. And I think this raises the stature of the city of Urbana in a significant way. Besides having the 2 grants from the Gates Foundation, the second grant, we had done so well on the first grant that we were invited to apply for the second grant, and that's when we got an additional $100,000 to do work in Malawi. We were, in 2012, this program here in this town was named Sister City of the Year for the state of Illinois. And in that same year, we will receive the Champaign-Urbana International Humanitarian Award for humanitarian work on the international level. So my concern, I guess I'm sharing with you, is that I would like to have the Sister City program funded pretty much on a permanent basis, but I'm just going to ask for next year at $1,000. And you know, the reason why I'm asking that is that our dues alone to continue our program at the state level and at the national level will cost us $615. So if this city council could afford to spend another $400 for programs in 2020, it would be highly appreciated. And I would suggest that this money could come from the general fund, but if you want me to pick something from the budget that I diminished by $100 or $1,000, I could do that for you.
Bill?
I wonder if the publishing of that book is probably worth $2,500 in in-kind donations. So if we could count that, then there's your $2,500.
Will you help us find 500 people who would like to buy this book?
But I mean, just
Most-
your effort to produce it and to produce two or three copies to give away is worth something. And I'd say you put a lot of time into it. That's probably worth $2,500.
Well, thanks. I will say that I have put a lot more time and energy into this program than people could probably imagine, but that's because I believe in it. And we have a small committee. We don't have a large committee. And our committee is not really served by the city in various ways. We don't have a staff person assigned to our city commission. It's called a commission. And, you know, but we do have a budget, and we appreciate it very much, and we would like to continue to receive some funding from the city as a support. And certainly, we are willing to try to raise money in the community and because really that's the goal of our program, is to engage the community in ways which the community shows it's excited and appreciative of this program too.
I think, Carol, you wanted to make a comment?
I was just wanting to maybe round out the information about the Sister Cities program and what we had proposed in terms of the funding for next year and then going forward, if I could. So a couple of things. One is that we viewed FY20 as a transition year where in the future, since the public arts program has been recast as the arts and culture program, that the Sister Cities program would appropriately compete for grants along with other organizations of this type. So FY20 is viewed as a transition year, and as Dennis said, the money that is in the budget for FY20 would become available once once matching funds had been raised in the amount of $2,500. Subsequent to meeting with Dennis and Scott Dossett, who are leaders in the organization, and they had made a request for us to put money in the budget in FY20 to pay the dues, we had offered to, in the event that they had unspent FY19 dollars up to $610, which is the amount of the dues, that we would propose a budget amendment to the council that would carry over $610 in order to pay the dues out of FY19 funds. Historically, the group has underspent their allocation. In 2017, they underspent it by $740.39. Last year, they underspent the allocation by $2,256.06. As of the time that we met, which was last month, mid-May, the group had over $4,000 still allocated to it. At the time, there was $350 or so pending that had been submitted but not processed. And then there was discussion when we met that you were going to be buying some textbooks in the amount of, I thought it was about $500. And so we thought that there would be sufficient funds left over at the end of this fiscal year. But in the document that you passed around, you say that you're estimating that's going to be $256, which means you've spent a lot of money in the last month. So I don't know what all that is for, but we haven't processed that yet.
That's right. I can explain that then. So there's $810 that we purchased bilingual books in both Chichewa and English to take with us on our trip to Malawi in August. In the past, we've done that before, and what we do is we donate these to primary schools in Malawi in the underprivileged areas, some of the areas where we've built toilets in the past through the grant money from Sister Cities International. And we are going to be doing that again this year. Basically because there's almost no reading materials available to children in Malawi that they actually own or can take home with them or study as a class. And in the past, we've also purchased basic school supplies. So that bill hasn't passed through the financial department, $810. Then to create this book and to make copies of it, it costs $500, $50 a book. And I made a limited edition, and I paid it out of my own pocket, but I thought that probably it would be appropriate, since we're giving them away as gifts, to be reimbursed. And then $210, I think it is, it was spent last week to frame the 2 charters that we received 5 years ago from France and brought them back there. These are very large hand calligraphy charters enumerating the Sister Cities partnership that we have with France. One document is in English and one document is in French. And they've been sitting on a shelf for 5 years, and the city clerk offered to hang them in this room if they could be framed appropriately. So they're being framed this weekend. So that's spent on our funds to $256.
Actually, I've kept a running total of the items that you have enumerated against the total that you had, and you're actually at $2,266 as a total.
Okay. Is that true?
I've been keeping track of the things that you enumerated.
Okay. Well, I don't know. My numbers came out differently. So, nonetheless, what I'm saying is that I just feel like it'd be appropriate for the city to support the Sister City projects to the limit of $1,000 in the following year. And I would like the city to be able to be that generous. So my motion was given to you, and I think that I passed away, oh, here it is. I got a copy of it. My motion is that the council approves an allocation of $1,000 to the Urbana Sister Cities program to cover national and state annual membership dues and to support its local programs. And since the offer from the administration was to roll over the amount in our budget to the tune of $615 or $610, I felt that we had spent down that amount. And you're saying that we have $2,000. Well, I'm surprised, but that's not what I figured myself. I'm sorry.
So I guess we would need a motion for Dennis's amendment. Would that be? Made what? Or a second, I guess.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved by Dennis to allocate $1,000 to Sister Cities. Seconded by Mary Alice. Finance Director Elizabeth Hannon.
I just want to clarify what is actually in the budget. What's actually in the budget is $5,200 in expenses for the Sister City program, and there's a program in the budget for that, and then there's related to that a $2,600 revenue that's presumed to be coming from donations as the half that the group would fundraise. So I just wanted to clarify that, because as we're talking about changing the budget, I think we need to know where we're starting from.
Well, so can I ask about that?
Dennis.
So in a meeting with the mayor and Carol Mitten, it was presented that allocation was no longer going to be used anymore in the coming years, even though I do see it on the draft memo for the budget in the future. It's in the draft, but my understanding was that was going to be changed, And from now on, it would be only matching funds to a certain cap length.
Yeah, my understanding is it was matching funds, and hence the $2,600 in donation revenue to go with the $5,200 in expenditures. So we don't necessarily spend everything that's in the budget. So my understanding is if it's a matching thing, we're going to monitor the funds as they come in, and then we're only going to spend as a match, twice whatever comes in.
So I'm confused by that because it wasn't made clear to me that I had $5,200 in the budget.
I think, before, just on this point, one of the reasons why this is being handled the way it is because the city handles the funding for the Sister Cities program, unlike any other group that would be getting a grant. It's a part of the government. So there, as Elizabeth was saying, it has to be accounted for in terms of revenues coming in and then expenditures going out. That's why it's, and she had to bookkeep the anticipated donation expenditures. So I'm sorry.
So she's imagining that we can raise the $5,200.
She's imagining that you could raise $2,600.
Mary Alice.
All right, so we have on the books that we're going to spend $5,200 with the assumption that we can raise $2,600, just to confirm that piece of information.
Correct.
Okay. So since we have already allocated basically $2,600 in our budget, would it be appropriate to allocate $1,000 that is kind of the bottom line? So we would have 1,000, and then the matching would take that into account. Does that make sense, Elizabeth? Because we've already said that we will pay $2,600 if $2,600 is raised. So we're already basically saying that $2,600 is coming out of the general fund. If they can't raise the $1,000 to get the matching of the 1,000, or $500 to get the matching of $500.
So what you're saying is they would spend or up to $1,000 without any matching.
Correct. I mean, I think that, just to be clear, I think that it's important that we pay our dues. Our dues are about $610. I mean, that is, in my opinion, part of the reason why we are sister cities. Now, I can understand having the Arts Commission, perhaps for events, apply for grants for the events and so forth. That would make sense to me. But certainly applying to the Arts Commission for dues does not make sense to me.
I think I'll speak for myself and anybody who, I don't want to speak for the mayor, but this organization is not really part of the government. I mean, we have sort of adopted it for the moment, but it functions separate from the government. It is not a commission. The members are not appointed by the mayor. And so it really functions as a nonprofit, and the goal would be for them to, sort of graduate out from under the wing of the government and stand on their own. And, if it is as Dennis has expressed, if it is considered by the community to make this valuable contribution, fundraising in the amount of $2,500 is not that formidable, and fundraising in the amount of $610 to pay dues is not that formidable. So, there is a certain, I guess, responsibility if you're going to be a nonprofit to take on a fundraising role. And so I guess that's what we see, that it grows into. It's a standalone organization like other grantees of the government.
Eric.
So if I'm understanding the discussion correctly, there is still maybe up to $2,000 in unspent allocations from previous budget years. Is that correct?
From the FY19 budget, based on the expenses that have been booked to date, and then what Dennis enumerated earlier, I calculated that there was $2,266 left.
So it seems to me that the cleanest thing to do, process-wise, would be to permit, to have, again, a retroactive budget amendment for last year, giving them the ability to continue to spend money out of that allocation this year, and that the dues could come out of that. Now, do any of the process experts, is there anything wrong with that?
Well, that's what we had offered, but they want
Okay.
more than that. We had
Okay.
offered to put forward a budget amendment in the amount of $610,
Okay.
which is the amount of the dues.
Well, that seems very reasonable. I also, there are lots of, once the Arts Commission was broadened to arts and culture, a lot of things that had been freestanding have come under its domain and apply for grants to them. Things like the Sweet Corn Festival and so forth. So, and this definitely is a cultural activity. I mean, this is definitely, that's the category I'd put it in. So I think that, providing the opportunity for the Sister Cities group to spend the money that has already been allocated, extend the time so that they can continue to spend that this year. But then suggesting make contact with Rachel at Public Arts and Culture and make sure that you now are up to speed on the procedure and sort of that commission's culture and processes as far as going for support on an ongoing basis in the future. That's really the right way for them to, I think that's really the right pathway for funding to be sought in the future from the city.
I'd like to offer a little history here, and based on what I inherited when I took office. For a number of years, Sister Cities really had no formal funding from the city. And then there was a year when I believe we had 2 delegations visiting from both China and France, and I know the previous mayor found herself funding dinners and all sorts of activities out of pocket. And the next year, then, an allocation of $5,000 was then assigned to the executive department for Sister Cities, and that's what Sister Cities has been spending each year. There were also a number of other kind of special groups who would come to the executive department on a yearly basis asking for funding, including the Folk and Roots Festival, the Pygmalion Festival. Let's see, who else came? People would, just come to the mayor's office and negotiate funding on an individual basis. And I felt really that in order to be consistent and fair to every group in the community, that needed to shift over to the public arts. And one of the reasons I requested and asked that we expand the Public Arts Commission to Public Arts and Culture was to include these other groups, like the Folk and Roots and Pygmalion and all the other things that were coming to the mayor's office asking for money, plus these Sister Cities. I thought these all appropriately belong in our public arts and culture umbrella. And so that's why we want the transition out of people making the trek to the second floor asking for money to being on an equal footing with everyone else in the community, recognizing, the importance and really the value of the Sister Cities program as part of our cultural activities. And there's no doubt about that. I just believe it's better that it goes through our Public Arts and Culture Commission through the process that everyone else goes through. So we're on an equal footing. And really it's a little more transparent, a little more we are accountable in terms of you're spending public dollars, so it's good to be accountable for those dollars, and that happens when you go through the Public Arts and Culture Commission. So that's how we got to where we are today. And as Carol and Elizabeth said, this coming year is to be the transition year. We didn't, want to make this abrupt change. We wanted to make a transition, and that's what we tried to explain to the group. So, and our understanding was there would be enough carryover from this year to cover dues for next year in order to give people time to plan for the following year. Dennis?
Yeah, right, yeah. Originally, when we were beginning this program, of course, we did have the enthusiasm of the mayor, and we were able to secure within the first 4 months of our creation a $115,000 grant from Sister Cities International to do work in Africa. The opportunity just pretty much fell in our laps because only an African partnership qualified for this grant money. And we got then a stipend of $10,000 because we managed the grant in Africa, working and sending representatives from Urbana to Africa and receiving delegations from them here in a cultural exchange, which also created the construction of 3 toilet buildings in public schools and a toilet and washing facility at the hospital. Well, that $10,000, we were going to put it in the bank because, all right, we were, independent. We had gotten this money, and we were told that the city didn't feel very comfortable about it, and also that Sister Cities International required us to have the city's interaction and approval to do this project because we represent the city, not just ourselves as a nonprofit organization. And so we put all of this funding into the city's bank account. They created a line item for us to hold that money for us, and we spent about 5 years spending the money down variously on projects that we did until we did end up with basically no money. And then, yes, the events happened, which you described. We had foreign visitors arriving, and we're pressing, and of course we ourselves had been taking money out of pocket to support travel, food, purchasing, and other kinds of things. And we were holding events in the community as an outreach program, and we had to pay for it. And so our financial situations, we had to close the account at the credit union to bring all our funds to the city. And we haven't opened that up again. But if we're considered to be a nonprofit organization, is the suggestion that we take our funds then back, recreate an account independently of the city to operate in the future? If you want us to come and ask for the city's participation in our projects, it doesn't seem to be a likely or a very positive way to create the city-represented Sister City program. I'd rather be working hand in hand with the city in doing that and, benefiting from the city's expertise and long reach into the community. But I would certainly not think it would be very likely for the Arts and Culture Committee to necessarily be choosing among a competition to pay our dues. Because when I think of arts and competition, I think of all the performance arts that all the performance, the dances, the music performances, the poetry readings that they do. And I don't think that their mindset is set on paying the dues of this organization. And that's kind of really a concern of mine. I mean, if I'm going to end up paying for our dues myself, it's not really what I was intending to look forward to here.
The funds are there to pay the dues
This coming year.
for this coming year.
But they're not matching funds, correct? They're just straight out.
They're the balance, their carryover balance from this year.
Right. So what we're saying then is that what Eric said is that whatever our balance is in this current year will be carried over, and we can spend those down. Is that correct?
Well, but in addition to that, there's also $5,000 in the budget, or $5,200, which is available on a matching funds basis.
That would be excellent
In addition
for
to
us.
the carryover. I think that's there. That's in the budget.
And that would be, I would appreciate that. That'd be an excellent decision.
Well,
We have
there's
to
not a
raise
budget
matching
amendment before you right now, so you can express your intent, but that's not a decision that you're making right now.
Oh, I see, okay.
But what we had proposed was carrying over a sufficient amount to pay the dues. What is now revolving is to carry over all the money. But we can discuss that at a later time.
Which we'll need to figure out what it is.
Yeah, right.
We don't have,
we
apparently
don't
there's
have
a
the exact
discrepancy in what people think. Bill?
Well, it's gratifying to know that in a $60 million budget, we've spent a half hour talking about a few $1,000s. But I think the concept of whether the city, whether Sister Cities is part of the city and endorsed by the city versus a nonprofit is kind of the thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around. And I know that, I think we've passed resolutions in the past that we are going to be a sister city for somebody, so that seems to make it more like a city function. But then if Dennis decides to move or something and goes away, then there's not many other people on the city staff that are probably going to take over. So for longevity of the program, it does make sense to me for it to be kind of a nonprofit. As far as the $3,000 or $5,000 goes, I think we need to do whatever works this year. And if it encourages people to donate $2,500 to do the match, I mean, people are donating much more than that in time and in travel money and everything else. I don't think you'd have trouble raising it. And we also have $6,500 in travel money for city council that I don't think anybody used last year that we could probably roll over. So if it's a matter of finding money, it's there, but I think it makes sense to, I'd just say go with the match this year and raise the match. I don't know if it belongs in arts and culture or not, but maybe we could talk about that over maybe an agenda item in a future meeting. I don't think we need to do any amendments.
We do have one public comment, and then we'll finish this discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Roberts is the chairperson of the Sister City because he's a member of the city council, and all of us are members. I think I've been a member for 6 or 7 years, but there are people who've been members since its inception, and I was invited to become a member. But we're different. I mean, the Arts Council, I know, and you've changed that and expanded it, but I don't think we fit. I mean, we are twinning with people, and there have been people say we should twin with more individual countries, and we haven't done that yet. But there are some other city council people. I think Mr. Brown has been to France at least. I think you didn't go with us, but anyway, it was exciting. I took information about the African American experience, Rantoul and others. Mr. Brown, African American Mr. Brown, who had gotten some of the same information that Kermit Harden, he's an icon here, and I took information over about Mr. Brown, and also a young lady here who was on the autism spectrum. I mean, I can't go into y'all got a lot to do, but I mean, it's just was exciting for me to go to see a lot of the African American soldiers because of the time we went. And China, when the Chinese people came over, there was a Chinese friend of mine who was on the King Committee with my husband. She happens to know the Chinese gentleman that came, and she had been working with information, how we reach out to the community. Meg, who was a teacher at King's School, when we had the reading materials that we were going to get, we put reading boxes in all the schools. I mean, we're reaching out to the entire community. We were promoting this city of Urbana. So it's not the little mere money we get. We pay for everything. We've paid for many things as the city, sister city people who are members. So the money that we get from the city, we appreciate it. But it's not about money. It's about promoting the city. Oh, the 4th of July parade, when they see the sister city, I mean, people want to come. Carol Amers, the representative, they wanted to follow us in the parade. I mean, it's just wonderful. And I try to dress. I can't walk, but I'd ride, but they're so excited. The different countries who see us, and the Chinese now, they know they expect to see us, and the people from France, and anyway, I'm getting excited. But it's just, I mean, this twinning is important. The other people from other countries call it twinning rather than sister city. So anyway, it's not the money. It's what we are promoting our city with other countries. Globalization is here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we can't, well, anyway, okay.
There is an amendment, there is a motion on the floor, which,
Can I?
yeah, you had a question. Oh, Mary
I
Alice,
do.
I'm
I
sorry.
have a question. So there's been a couple of conversations. So Carol, you had said that the original proposal was to, if there was $610 left over from this year's budget, that would be rolled over to pay the fees for the state and the national. And then Eric was talking about whatever that budget amount is, that would be rolled over. And all of this stuff would be done as a budget amendment, not tonight, but in the future.
Correct.
So that I'm just trying to summarize what the conversation has all been about. The amendment on the floor is to take $1,000 and put that specifically into the budget. So those are the three things that we're talking about. And I don't know what the feelings are of council, but basically what I am interested in is seeing that the fees for the state and the federal is paid. That's what I'm primarily interested, how that's done.
Eric.
So if I understand the situation correctly, the budget amendment is not necessary to pay the dues, that they can be paid out of money that's rolled over, previously allocated, that we can roll over.
In order to roll it over, we would have to have a budget amendment. See, Elizabeth is coming because she doesn't trust me to get this right.
And I
And she's
assume-
probably right.
So maybe it's appropriate to, even though we don't have the budget amendment drafted and in front of us, maybe it's appropriate for the council to take a straw vote to assure Sister Cities program that we will support such a budget amendment when it comes before us.
I think Elizabeth wanted to weigh in.
Yeah.
Carol is exactly right. You don't have that budget amendment in front of you, and likely that would happen, I'm guessing, around August, by the time we would do the first amendment on the FY '20 budget. So, I mean, I think if there's agreement, I'll jot it
Okay.
down on my list, and when we do that budget amendment, we'll include it.
So is that timely enough for you to pay the dues? August?
Yeah, because the dues will be coming due in March, probably, or,
Okay.
kind of early next
Sure.
year.
My sense is, but people would want to speak up, my sense is that the sense of the council is that we would likely approve such a budget amendment.
And is that for $1,000 or $610?
Or 2,005, whatever.
So what I would suggest is whatever the actual balance is, what was allocated and is not yet spent, should be made available to the Sister Cities Commission. I want to add one other thing pertinent to the discussions we've had, but not to this exact point. I think that Elizabeth should check on the propriety of this, but my impression is that that contributions in kind could also count towards a match, should we decide to pass something like that. So, for example, if an individual, in order to participate in Sister City program, went out of pocket for plane fare, that the cost of that could, or could it not? Would it have to be dollars?
Well, so you're kind of getting far afield from the budget. The budget is dollars, right? Contributions in kind don't affect the
Well,
budget.
but if we say that somebody has to have a match, my question is, must the match be in dollars, or could it be the dollar value of an in-kind contribution?
I mean, I think the city council can probably decide what that means. Right now, it's showing up as an actual revenue in the
Okay.
budget.
The trips are entirely voluntary, and you have people spending thousands of dollars
Right,
traveling.
okay.
So it's a substantial amount. But at this point, we have a motion and a second for amending the budget for $1,000. Would you be interested in withdrawing that motion and restating a new motion to cover the cost of the dues? Or do you want to keep it at $1,000? Mary Alice?
I like Eric's suggestion of a straw poll, if that is appropriate at this time.
Can I ask a question real quick? Just
Yes.
so I need to anchor myself. I've been hearing so many ideas and so many this and that. I'm looking at the budget page regarding the sister cities. I could be wrong. Elizabeth, is it that there is $5,200 allocated for the sister city thing for FY20?
Yes, there are $5,200 in expenses in the budget. There's also mixed in with other revenues, so it's a little harder to pick out. But on the revenue side, we added $2,600 in revenues from donations.
Okay, because I'm just looking at page 81, I guess, under the general thing.
Right, and that's the expenses for the Sister City program.
Okay. Now, according to, because I'm just trying to process this, I often have to say that. According to, so that's 5,200 proposed for the FY20. And in addition, there is a carryover from FY19 of 2,000 blah, 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 blah. Carol, right? So,
To be determined.
At the moment, it's tracking at $2,266. We'll have to see what all the submissions
at the
are.
moment. And that is a number that can be rolled over to join the $5,200 for FY20.
If that is the
I am
wish
not a
of the council.
mathematician.
Only if council approves a budget amendment to do that.
Okay.
We can't just roll over money without a budget amendment.
Okay, so what I'm saying, though, is that if we pass the resolution, the ordinance that we have in front of us, I mean, not in front of us, but what we were going to vote on originally, the very first, after Mayor Marlin said, and now we're going to, that one. Okay, so if we're going to vote on that one, then the $2,600 would roll over into the $5,200?
No.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, yes. I mean, so if let's say we come back in August and we bring you a budget amendment, and if we're talking now about rolling over the balance, whatever that may be, I mean, we're still in FY19, so money can still be
Right.
spent.
I'm saying if he doesn't spend, if Dennis doesn't spend what's in there now, let's say that you keep that, you can't find anything to spend it on, so you end up with $2,600, and
Okay, for discussion purposes, we'll say it's $2,600.
Yeah, for discussion
But we
purposes.
will actually check
Right.
and make sure that it's $2,600.
Right.
Whatever that number is,
So-
we would bring you a budget amendment and we would add it to the $5,200.
so there's already monies there, and it could possibly be rolled over for FY20, and therefore, we do not need an amendment to the resolution that we were going to vote on right after Mayor Marlin said, okay, next is resolution, blah, 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 blah.
Correct. If that's what we're going to do, we don't need to amend the budget ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask for clarification?
Yes.
So basically then, the Sister Cities program is going to be funded for one more year at the rate of $5,200? Is that what, or is this, are we talking about matching, only if there's matching, or only if there's expenditures?
My understanding is that the 5,200 was going to be contingent on the fundraising match.
Oh, see, that's
So-
not, that's a different story. It's not guaranteed. This is contingent on, right?
But what's guaranteed is rolling over whatever your balance is from this year, which will be enough to cover the dues
all right.
and other expenses. And
So
this
that
is a
works.
transition
That works
year.
for us.
Okay, that
right.
works for you.
Thank you, Judy.
Okay, so I'd like
Because we didn't have a rollover earlier that was going to.
I'd like to take a straw poll to get a sense of the council who supports the rolling over of the balance in the Sister Cities account to fiscal year '20. Okay, that's unanimous. So we will plan on doing that in the next time we do a budget amendment in August. There's still a motion on the floor. Would you care to withdraw that motion?
Yeah, I'll withdraw the amendment because we seem to have reached some kind of a consensus that will support us for one more year.
Mary Alice, do you
Yes, I
support
agree.
that? Okay, that motion is withdrawn.
And thank you for the discussion.
Mary Alice?
I'm so sorry to do this, but I had a question on the vote. So we have an amendment we proposed, and that is in our packet. So when we vote on the budget, does that include the amendment, or do we need to vote on that separately?
The amendment regarding the planner position?
Yes.
That should,
Yeah, that was in the packet. So
Yeah,
I
it was
think
in
we're
the packet.
assuming that you are voting on the budget ordinance with the
With the
revised
amendment.
exhibit.
I just wanted to make sure that I understood.
yes.
Thank you.
So we have a motion on the floor for the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. Is there any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Hazen, Hersey,
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Wu,
Yes.
Mayor Marlin.
Yes. That motion passes. Chair Hazen.
At least I'm awake. On behalf of Committee of the Whole, I'm going to move ordinance number 2019-06-035 with recommendation for approval, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance, budget amendment number 10, fiscal year 2018-19 estimates from finance.
I'll second that.
Moved by Dean, seconded by Eric. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmembers Brown.
Yes.
Hazen.
Yes.
Hersey.
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Wu, Mayor
Yes.
Marlin.
Yes, that motion passes.
Okay, next up, on behalf of Committee of the Whole, I'm going to move with full recommendation for approval, resolution number 2019-06-023R, resolution approving the Capital Improvement Plan 2019, Finance and Public Works.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Dean, seconded by Eric. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion passes. Last item,
Okay, on behalf of Committee of the Whole, I am to move with full recommendation for approval, resolution number 2019-06-024R, a resolution adopting financial policies for 2019 finance.
moved by Dean. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Eric. Any discussion? Bill?
I just wanted to thank Elizabeth for doing the graph showing the estimated outstanding debt that would accumulate in the VERF fund. Seems like it, according to the projections anyway, for the next 40 or 50 years, it won't exceed 30% of the value of assets, and it's not it's not accumulating rapidly. It looks like, don't even have any debt for 10 years. Is that right? 12 years?
Can you say that again?
There won't be any, looks like there won't be any debt till about 2032.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So I'm okay with these policies, I think.
Mary Alice?
So, don't leave, Elizabeth. I have a question for you on that graph. So I believe the policy had stated that we would be decreasing the amount of funding in the VERF from 90% to 70% and removing the amount of, I think, around $120,000 from the general, which was supposed to be replacing the amount that we had underfunded it since 2015. Just to confirm that was what?
Yes.
Okay. And that would lead to the city needing to borrow approximately 3 times in 2030 at $3 million apiece, which would equate to about $10 million.
Yeah, I'm
9
going to say,
million.
when you're looking out that far, that's very rough, but it would
Sure.
lead to a need to borrow some sum of money at about
Definitely
that point
over
in time.
$3 million.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So then that brings me to your chart here. Is there any way to put that chart, Charlie, up on the screen so that other people can see? If you had Apple TV, I could cast it.
Give me a moment, I can find it.
Oh, I haven't.
Oh, you have it on, oh, that's faster.
Thank
Yes,
you.
that's faster. On the other right side, yeah.
Okay. All right, so if you go to the bottom of the screen, you can make it bigger. Thank you. It's at 61%.
Is that better?
Thank you. Okay, so basically this shows that the first borrowing would happen approximately at 2032, in the early 2030s, we'll say, right? That's what the orange peaks are. That's when the borrowing would happen. So there
Correct.
would be one there, and then there would be one perhaps in 2039, and then 2047, and I mean, we're going out, I understand, we're going out many years
Yeah,
here.
it's pretty speculative.
It's very speculative. So that's where those 3 peaks for the borrowing would happen. And then, can you describe the purple line for us?
So what Mr. Brown asked us to do was measure the outstanding debt as a percentage of the projected value of all of the assets in the VERF. So the green line, for reference, is our projection of what the value of the assets is. So they're increasing, obviously, over time. And then the purple line shows the outstanding debt as a percentage of the value of the assets.
And so what is the proposal for paying off the loans? So if we borrow $3 million, we have to pay it off, right?
Right.
So I think somebody had said that the VERF would be paying that off over time?
Right,
Is
yes.
that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
We estimated over 10 years each time.
over 10 years for each one. So I guess technically, 10, 20, I don't know, maybe 25 years, we would have those loans paid off?
Well, each one individually would be paid off
In 10 years.
after 10, right? So that's why you s-
that's why I'm spreading it out here,
Yeah.
because we have 3 potential times that we would be.
Okay. Well, and the further you go into the future, you would certainly have more than 3. So when you see a peak in the orange there, that's where we're issuing debt. So we have a large amount outstanding, and then it starts to drop as we make payments to pay it off, and then we issue debt again, and you see another peak. So this chart goes out farther than the one that you saw earlier at the last time we discussed this. So you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 peaks here of varying amounts.
So an estimate of 5 times that we would borrow to replenish the VERF. Just
Sure.
a very rough estimate.
But we might not borrow it all, or,
All right. Okay. Thank you for describing that. I appreciate it.
Eric?
So I have to say, my eyes glaze over a little bit when I see graphs that extend to when I will be 121 years old. But I will try to remain engaged and really care. I've really tried to understand this whole business of potentially borrowing to keep the reserves up. And in my mind, I can't get away from the idea that this is just moving money from one pocket, one of my pockets, into another of my pockets. But that, I don't want to debate that, but that's just, I'm still stuck on that. But what makes a difference, what may make a difference to us, is optimizing our vehicle replacement policies, which we never have. There are formulas that will tell you, as a vehicle ages, depending on how hard it's used, at what point will you be less out of pocket by replacing it as opposed to continuing to maintain it and repair it. And I don't want to lay anything more on Public Works right now while you're short-staffed, especially, and decapitated. But but as soon as you've got Public Works leadership stabilized, I would really urge to, one of the studies that might be done, even by New Planner, is to develop an optimization strategy for vehicle replacement. That really will make a difference in the bottom line.
I actually think that we do that. Maybe it's not to the fine level that maybe you're talking about, but we're not just randomly replacing things. We do take into consideration the point at which it will become more costly to maintain than to replace. We absolutely do that.
Okay, if at some point I would really like to see, if it's possible, a brief presentation of that process.
Okay.
The other thing I would encourage people to keep in mind is that the Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund is not the only fund that was underfunded for many years. We have absolutely no fund for facilities repair, maintenance, or replacement. Zero. There's nothing. Infrastructure is another major, as you got the report on that a few weeks ago. So when we talk about the Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund, it needs to be in the context of all the other capital needs that we're going to have to deal with in the near future and in the more distant future. And that's also in conjunction with addressing our structural budget deficits. So that's where we are. We just need to make sure we consider the context, the entire context. Jared, and then Mary Alice.
Is financial policies where we did our tax increase on packaged liquor sales?
No.
It's part of the larger budget?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the financial policies outline the minimum, that guideline for fund balance, things like the Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Fund. We also distributed a copy of the pension. I know there were concerns expressed about the pension funding last week, and the council did revise the pension funding plan so that we're on track to fully fund pensions according to the Government
Finance Officers Association, yeah.
GFOA, according to those standards. So we're on track for that. Mary Alice.
I guess I just want to be clear. I operate under no assumptions that the city will not go into debt for a large number of projects that we haven't been able to address, whether it's facilities, whether it's roads, whether it's sewers. There are infrastructure needs that the city is going to have to issue debt. So I operate under no illusions that we won't have to do that by any means. My concern with this policy is the addition of debt. So basically saying, okay, well, we're setting ourselves up to absolutely have to borrow money for the VERF. And that is my concern with this, knowing that coming down the road, we are going to have to borrow money to handle all of these other items that we don't have any money saved for. We don't have any funds saved for. So that's my primary concern, and that's why I'm not willing to support this.
Carol.
Maybe I could just maybe take a little bit different angle than the mayor, but I'm ultimately going to say the same thing. which is that we only have so much money, right? And so we have all of these other asset classes that we have made no attempt to create a replacement fund for, and sort of holding the VERF in a separate category where, but it's almost like, well, at least we'll do one thing right, but it still doesn't do anything about solving the other, the neglect that we have in these other areas. But the one thing that changing the policy will do is it will handicap us this time next year from having a level of flexibility to deal with all the new information that we will have acquired about facilities, about streets. Stormwater is sort of separate and apart, but some other asset types where it'll be, well, the VERF, you know, the policy says we have to fund the VERF at this level, and we'll have to make a bunch of decisions and put a budget in front of you that accommodates that, and then that gives us less flexibility to deal with those other asset types rather than have more flexibility across all the asset types.
Mary Alice?
So the budget that we just passed, was the VERF funded at 70 or 90%? 70%.
So we didn't pass a policy that approved the 70%. So you brought a budget to us that funded it at 70%. And if next year you bring a budget to us and you say, okay, well, we need $200,000 to address the HVAC in the city building. I'm just throwing out something. So we are recommending that you fund it at 70%. That gives you the flexibility because you came to us with a budget that already implemented this financial policy that we didn't approve. Correct?
I guess that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
So we could ignore you twice then, I
You
guess.
could ignore us twice. I'm not suggesting you do, but I'm
Right.
saying that it does give you that flexibility that you can come to us during our budget meetings and say, we have this urgent need because the facilities report said that the air conditioning was going to explode on itself or whatever, whatever. So I guess what I'm saying is it's not that we are preventing you, but what we are asking for is that the intent is to fund VERF at this level. If you come back to council and say, we have this emerging need that we need to handle right now, and so our recommendation to do that is going to be funding VERF at 75% or 80% or what have you, you've already done that, I guess is what I'm saying. So I still would like to adhere to the policy that we are going to attempt to fund the VERF at 90%. If there's something that comes up, certainly bring it back to council.
But what that means for starting next January is we're looking at an additional about $300,000 on top of the $500,000 in new either spending reductions and or revenue enhancements that we're going to have to make.
Can you remind me how much we cut the budget this year? Was it 700,000?
500,000 in cuts and about 300 in new revenue.
I think
So
it was
about
more than
800,000.
500 in cuts at the end of the day, like 575 or something.
Yeah, but some of that was offset by other new spending that we really didn't have a lot of options
Well, yeah.
for, right? So the net was a little over 500.
Okay.
Including the revenue?
Oh, and revenues, I think. Sorry, revenues, I think were 294. But so our goal was a net of 750, either expenditure reductions or revenue increases.
So if our goal is 500,000, then we were over 250 this year, correct?
No, our goal was 750, but 500 in cuts, in reductions, 250 in revenue.
Cutting the budget by 750, essentially, is what you're saying.
A net of 750 in cuts and revenue. And we have about $1.2 million to go total. Or we've done about $1.2 million, so we're
Right.
more than halfway toward the $2.5 million.
We think, and we'll know better when I do the next financial forecast, but we think we have roughly another 750,000 to go.
And that depends on revenue coming in this year, which we'll have to see what that, there's a lot of unknowns in this coming year. this is a transition year in a lot of ways in terms of new revenues and that sort of thing. So we'll see where we are. Eric?
I think I'm persuaded by Mary Alice's argument that you actually have the flexibility you need. You will have to make an extra, justification next year, again, for the 70% if we haven't approved it in advance as an ongoing policy. But our track record is that if that makes sense, we'll do it. We'll vote for it. So I think I also will. I think I will also vote against the resolution.
Bill?
I think I'll vote for the resolution. I think this is, the graph shows that it's sustainable. My worry was that the debt would increase. You'd be able to see a peak in debt and not stop going up, and I don't see that. I see it pretty level over the next 50 years, 40 years. I mean, it goes up and down to even out the spending that we have currently in the VERF. We have big years and low years, and yeah, there will be debt, but it's either have debt there or have an excess amount in there in the VERF fund when you could be using that money, putting that money to use. But I think I just like the idea of having a policy in place, and I appreciate staff's effort in making a policy so that it's predictable year after year, and then you don't argue over whether we should fund it over at 60% this year or 80% this year. It just seems to make sense to me.
Any other comments? Okay, this is a resolution with a roll call vote. So let me make sure I have my notes on. The motion was made by Dean and seconded by Eric. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I'm going to need a show of hand. Let's do a roll call.
Okay. Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Hazen?
No.
Hersey?
Yes.
Jacobson?
No.
Miller?
Yes.
Roberts?
No.
Wu?
No.
The noes have it. The resolution is defeated.
I might just point out there was more in the resolution than just the language about the VERF. So if anyone cares to revive any of those other things, now would be the time.
Can we separate that? Could we go back and separate the VERF from the rest of the ordinance or the resolution?
Can it be brought to the committee as a separate item?
Yes, on both of those. You could move to reconsider and then split it up, or you could move as a group right now to send to committee direction to staff to revise, to come up with a new policy, deleting the VERF piece.
Is there a motion to reconsider?
I'll make a motion that staff come back with us with a revised policy.
Is that a motion to reconsider?
No, that would
No.
be just simply a council motion directing staff. It wouldn't have any
That's correct.
legal
I'll
ramifications.
second
It just send it
that
to, it would send it to
motion.
committee to be, it would send a direction to staff to bring something to committee.
Okay. So you'll bring back a financial policy statement with
Separate.
revised language regarding the VERF. Is that the direction?
Regarding the general fund minimum, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah, there were a few other items that were in there.
There were a lot of other items in this.
So I second the motion.
There were the other changes unrelated to the VERF were very minor. I mean, they were,
This is the
Very-
general fund minimum, though.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it is.
It's just the general fund.
Okay.
It's
Right. So if
for
we want to
Section
make that
A.
change, once I get back from vacation, we can do that.
Okay. Okay, we'll bring the revised financial policy statement back. Okay, reports of special committees. Reports of officers. We've completed the new business. With no further business before the council, this meeting is adjourned.